thousands of years, Avalon has been known as a land of harmonious balance. Light and dark in stable union, allowing for peace and prosperity. This was my home, and I knew this balance well. It had been the background to my upbringing. It had been my youth. There are always signs when the fulcrum of this balance is shifting. In my dreams that night, I felt a great movement in a terrifying direction. As I left the darkness of the cave, I was met by an old wizard. Smiling, he took the weeping fairy into his outstretched arms.
This creature has found a champion, but there are others. I am Archmagistrate Kalen, and I've been looking for you. The Royal Society for the Protection of Magical Creatures calls you. You have a special talent, child. Join our ranks and put it to good use.
I was moved by the old man's tale of the fairy's plight, and I agreed to help. The wizard's eyes were alight as he handed me a glowing staff.
Take this staff. It will protect you along your way. And make haste for the frozen north. She will guide you as you near.
I walked through the hole in the ice, careful not to step on the wounded fairy scattered around, and gathered up the weeping fairy that had been trapped within. She looked up at me, mortal terror warping her tiny face, and I saw reflected in her eyes the light from my magic staff before she disappeared. I couldn't make sense of it, but I hadn't time to try. As soon as I had stepped out again, I heard another pain cry coming from the south. She had seemed like the one in the ice. She wanted to tell me something, but what? Again, a wailing cry hit my mind as if nearby. I sought its source and moved in that direction. I came upon the autumn wood stretched before me in the valley below, and I paused to marvel at its beauty. Here the leaves were said to be in perpetual color change and always falling. As I approached the wood, the swarming fire mote fairies continued to circle my staff. Fearing for the leaves, I swatted them and begged them to return to their fiery home. It was without effect, and so I ran, attempting to leave them behind. The motes were out of sight behind me when I entered into the orange shade of the trees. The trees nearby were in fact living beings. The Oaken. Merely legend, I had assumed. What might have been their leader extended an open wooden hand, cradling a curled and sobbing wood fairy.
We're not all patient, we. Death would have been your fate, child. But this tale is all told. Rid us of her, if it will end this destruction.
Atop his gnarled bark palm, the poor wood fairy gazed at me through teary eyes, her countenance shifting to firm resolution and decision just before she faded away. I turned to see the column of smoke rising from the edge of the autumn wood, then toward the shore, where a tunnel had formed at the water's edge, inviting me in. The pain of the cries was clear, and I had to move fast once again. I walked into the tunnel of water and toward the weeping fairy's voice. Why were these poor fairies so scared? What does it mean? Am I too late? My confidence waned as I approached the land once again. Here, a new voice called out to me, but this time it was different. This voice spoke clearly, without pain or fear, strange and musical.
Come to me, child, for that was the last of my children. And be quick. You must reach me before he reaches you.
Moving with purpose now, I arrived at the shore of a large desert island. This new voice seemed to know more than I did, and I was eager to learn what I could.
Rise, child. I know that you did not intend the pain that you have caused. Archmagistrate Kalen has deceived you, but you had come to suspect that already, yes? He had desired to enslave the most powerful of the Fae folk, my children, but only a boy of your talents, your sensitivities, could find them. They tried to hide themselves. They tried to warn you or scare you off. But the power in that staff that you carry was too great for them to resist its call. You must set this right. Even now, your talents are the only way to save my children.
I swore at once to end this madness, breaking the staff against the floor. Casting it aside, the Fairy Queen held before me a fine silver sword.
She shall guide you now. She shall vanquish all that stands before you.
Slowly, a tall and twisted silhouette drew in from amidst the mass of dark fairies. I suspected it to be their queen, somehow appearing regal in spite of her grotesque form.
I know where you intend to go, boy. And I know that you shall fail your quest. It is a pity that we should be asked to meet under such circumstances.
She laughed, a horrific sound, causing the chattering shadows on all sides to quiet themselves.
This is the end for you, boy. Your time for adventure is done.
I stared at the ground, mortified by the idea of an actual fight. Crouched into the ground, I gripped the handle of my sword as she closed the distance between us. As she fell upon me, the sword seemed to act on its own, lashing out once, twice. It found its goal, ending the Dark Queen's life. Archmagistrate Kalen turned to see me approach, looking grim.
Ah, my little protege. I suppose that you have come here to stop me? I cannot allow you to interfere. The Queen's children belong to me now. With their power, Avalon will soon be under my control.
I could feel the power radiating from the sword as I held it above my head. A blue bolt surged outward and locked onto Kalen's body. His eyes went wide with fear.
You think you can stop me with that toy?
He began, but he was fading, dispersing into a glowing blue mist. Just as Kalen was all but gone, his voice dying out as he faded. At once he snapped back, clear as day, and uttered a spell.
Viran Kaish Den Bibilor.
And cast a large bound volume before him. The pull of the book's pages was the last thing I remember, before its cover closed around me, trapping me within.